Yep, there we go. All right. So, good afternoon. Today is Thursday, the 25th of June. This is David Perlman and
Heather Cox. I was ready for you this
there
time.
we go. After 5 weeks.
Yeah.
This is MS Office Hours, and we have the joy of we'll be speaking about bookings today. And we'll have Jessica, and I'm not going to try to pronounce your Wilczek. Did I do that justice?
Oh, yep, you got it.
Thank you.
That's impressive.
So Jessica,
I wasn't going to attempt it.
Okay, Jessica, the floor is yours.
Great. Hey, everybody. Happy to be here. My name is Jessica. I'm the product marketing manager for bookings. And so today I'm just going to walk you through a quick deck I have just to overview what bookings is, what the product is, some high level things, and then walk you through the product itself. So a bit of a live demo for you, and then take any questions. So if you're not familiar, Microsoft Bookings is an Office 365 app. It is an online appointment scheduling and management tool. And how we think about bookings is we think about it fitting in this piece of the scheduling challenge. And so we see that scheduling and managing appointments can be really time consuming. It requires tedious management, specific customization. There's a lot of things going on when it comes to scheduling, and a lot of organizations encounter these types of challenges where they have to do three things. They have to schedule the right resources, whether that be people, rooms, time zones, all of that, for the right time, the right day, make sure that nobody's being double booked, make sure that there's enough lead time for any sort of prep or wrap up for appointments, and do all of that in an efficient and scalable way. So that's kind of the meta challenge that Bookings is addressing. And so here we have the main piece of bookings. So this is what we have with bookings is that you have the ability to customize your appointment details to make sure they're consistent across a variety of different, when people are scheduling them in different places, different times. You can easily incorporate faculty and staff skills and their availability to match them with a particular appointment or end user booking the appointment. You can then delight these end users by providing convenient. Sorry,
if you're not on mute, go ahead and get yourself on mute, or I'm going to do it for you.
So you can delight these end users by providing a convenient and easy way to schedule. So we have a web-based scheduling platform so people can choose a time that works for them, makes it really simple, really easy. And it's also just a really versatile product. So allows for implementation at scale across your organization in a variety of different ways. So I'll go through these pretty quickly because I'll move into the demo itself, which will be probably a little bit easier to digest this. But one of the big points to hit on here is that Bookings is designed to fit a variety of situations and needs of an organization. So you can create multiple bookings calendars managed by a single person. We have no limit to the number of bookings calendars, so you can create as many as you need to suit your needs. You can restrict staff privileges via role delegation if you have multiple people managing these calendars. You can customize nearly every aspect of the booking page to really make it your own. You can even add custom fields and customer consents, and even make different reminder confirmation emails and text messages so that all the details of the end user are properly collected and everything is set the way you want it to be. One of the biggest value adds we see with bookings is that you spend less time dealing with some of these repetitive, nuanced scheduling tasks. So all of this is pretty plug and play. Once you've set everything up in bookings, it's really easy to just go from there and manage all the day-to-day. We have Office Calendar free busy integration, so it'll find available times outside of what you already have booked on your Office calendar, whether that's your work calendar, your personal calendar, but it avoids any of those double booking scenarios that we normally see, just to make scheduling that much easier. There's layered booking hours to accommodate different organization hours, staff commitments, appointment constraints if you want to only do appointments in the mornings or Mondays and Tuesdays, or let's say the student service center is closed on Fridays, then you can accommodate that with bookings at different levels. So we have a variety of these different booking policies, buffer time where staff if they need time to prepare for a meeting or wrap up a meeting. And you can customize all of the details that are sent both to the person that's booking, so the end user, and for the faculty or staff member that has the appointment that they're booked with. So really easy to just set that up on an appointment basis, and then it is good to go every time that appointment is booked. And then the last piece is this end user bit. And so this just makes it really easy to interface with the appointment scheduling tool. Instead of any tedious sort of calling process to make an appointment, reschedule it, cancel it, it can be all done through a customizable web page. All of the appointment notifications are automated, so confirmation emails, reminder emails, you can send as many as you would like as needed. And these appointments also contain an ICS file, so they can be added directly to a person's calendar. We have online meetings, so they can have a unique Skype or Teams link added to them, and they can join directly from that email. So it makes the new virtual world a lot easier to manage with that capability. And if you don't want them booking themselves, you can still go more of the old school route and book on behalf of those end users through the web app and still have all of those preset reminder emails, scheduling policies set, so that way it's all captured when you go about booking it. We have a variety of different scenarios we see with bookings, so all across different industries and verticals. The one we're focusing on today, obviously, is education. So we see this being both relevant in K through 12 and in higher ed. In K through 12, we see the majority of bookings being used for things like scheduling parent-teacher conferences, like school town halls, any student counselor visits. And then in higher ed, we see a lot of office hours, tutoring, student services. We've even seen it being used for signups for exams and exam times. So a variety of different use cases. But you can see that obviously educational institutions are just like any other business where they may need to perform candidate interviews, any sort of outside consultations, have any contractors or facility people come in and work on the campus. And so there's a lot of different use cases for bookings. So that's kind of my just quick little pitch, and then I will go into a demo. So while I transition, let me know if there's any questions for the time being.
Well, so here's what I'm going to say while she's transitioning. In both the community call channel and the chat, Jessica, I got to say, we are getting some great questions. Now, the one thing I'm going to say to everybody, and I'm going to reiterate it, is number one, we've already warned Jessica, or I've already warned her, and Dave and I've told you many times that we don't know the answer to everything. So we will say no, or we don't know. And also because there are so many amazing questions coming through, like I think this is the most actively questioning like session I've been a part of, which is fantastic. What we'll do if we run out of time is we'll gather up these questions and make sure that Jessica has them so that she can take them back. But keep putting those questions out there. We'll get to whatever we can get to, and then we'll kind of go from there. So back to you, Jessica.
Okay, great. That sounds great. So I'll quickly go through this to leave as much time for questions as possible. But this is what Bookings looks like. It's a web app only. So we do have a mobile companion app, but it sits within Outlook on the web. And the technical details behind this is basically every time a new Bookings calendar is created, it creates a new mailbox in Exchange. So there's some technical aspects, but it is the Exchange that you all know and love that powers Outlook. And so definitely a really reliable platform there. But here's where you see the calendar piece. You can see all of the different staff members that have been scheduled here. All of the named appointments are actually Bookings appointments that we've set up. So we have two main platforms for this. There's the Bookings web app itself, and then we actually have this self-service page. So everything that is determined and set in this web app actually flows through to the self-service page here. So you'll see some similarities there. And so you see as you book, you can have you can see all the different staff members, and all of those align with staff members here. The free busy integration that I was talking about is where you see all this tentative and busy time slots. That's actually tentative and busy meetings that are on these folks' calendars that are flowing through, so that if I went to go book an appointment with Adele at 2 p.m., it would actually tell me that she was busy, because it respects her own separate calendar outside of booking. So you can think of them as kind of two separate calendars coming together. But I won't go into too much detail here, but here's where you manage all of your services. We have a lot of different detail you can set here. You can assign staff members to these. The add online meeting toggle is here, as I discussed, for Teams meetings, buffer time. There's a wealth of different settings, reminder and confirmation emails here that you can edit. And basically you go in and set these specific to each particular service that you're defining. And then each time that service is booked, it's always for 45 minutes. It always has those confirmation or reminder emails. It has everything that you've predetermined on here, which makes it just a lot easier to manage. And it all flows through to this self-service booking page, as we call it. So this is something that you can expose to anyone that you need to book the appointment. They can learn about the appointment, get more details on it, choose which appointment they want, choose it for a time that works for them, and they can see who's available to be booked and when. Then they input their details. Here we've asked what is their major, their primary area of study, and then they can book the appointment. And once they book, they'll receive a confirmation email that looks like this in their inbox. So it says their name, who they've booked with, what it is, when it is, and then even the option to join the Teams meeting directly from this email. And to make life easier, they also have the ability to manage this booking. So they can click on this button and it'll bring them back to the page where they can reschedule or cancel their booking. So it leaves them with the power to do that, and just makes the flow a lot easier. And then the last thing I'll call out before we move to questions is the Bookings app within Teams. So this is something that rolled out. We announced it about a month ago at Build. And it basically just puts Bookings, a lightweight version of Bookings, into the left rail of Teams. And so you can see this kind of flows through here with some of the meetings flowing through from Teams. You can see all of the people that are added as staff to the Bookings page, and you can do everything from the calendar tab of the Bookings web app. So you can make a new booking. There's the different types of bookings you can choose from with which staff members, and do all the day-to-day management here. So what we recommend is utilizing the Bookings web app to do all the setup and customization. And then you can move into the app within Teams to do all of the day-to-day management of the calendar. So you never have to leave Teams. You can keep it being your hub. You can pop into the chat if you need to reschedule an appointment and then go back to it. So it makes that management a lot easier. So that's my spiel. I'm happy to go to questions now and then go from there.
Yeah, and just as a quick reference, I had
questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, this is probably we probably won't get to everything, so that's why I said we'll collect all these questions and send them over to Jessica so that she and her team can take a peek at them. This kind of also came about. You guys were amazing last week in saying you had all these questions about bookings, and I am really personally passionate about it looking more edu-friendly, and that was why I had connected with Jessica. And then, I was like, this is perfect, because I think so many people on this call would love to hear about it. So I'm just going to kind of run down the list if that works for you guys, and then we'll just get to what we can get to. And remember, Jessica, you can say I don't know. You can say I can't talk about that, whatever you need to do. So the first question we have is there currently or a planned SMS text message reminder for folks that have made a booking? If so, any response back via SMS there or planned? That's a good question.
Yes, so right now our SMS feature is in beta, and so it's on each of the services tab here. So each service you can enable SMS. It's opt-in only, so when someone is booking an appointment, they have to opt into that service. The service is right now powered by Skype or Twilio, and right now we support both confirmation and reminder texts. They are at a very basic high level. So they just say that, like an example would be, you have an appointment tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Contoso University Student Services Center. So it has the overall view of what the appointment is. But that is something that we're looking into. Obviously, it's in beta right now, and as we bring the feature to GA, we'll be exploring some more customization with that.
Awesome. Any updates on analytics or anything that can help admins with data?
Mm-hmm. So on the homepage, we have this TSV file download that you can download data from the 120-day view. And so it's all of the bookings and some of their related details. What I would also recommend, and what we've seen a lot of customers using in order to really get crisp on the type of data they want, is actually utilizing the Graph API. And so we have a Graph API that's a part of you can find it on docs.microsoft.com. And so the bookings API there's functionality to pull all of the calendar data, the staff data, the services data, and even create new appointments from there. And so we would recommend utilizing the API to create those custom reports.
Perfect. And kind of along the same line with admins, any updates on a robust admin console that can help us manage sites, etc.?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a great question. So we're still thinking through the future of admin controls and tenant admin controls. It is something that we have definitely prioritized. Bookings was originally built for SMBs, and it was an SMB product, but we have moved really fully into the enterprise EDU space and are really aware of the needs of tenant admins in that way. And so the team is really hard at work to create what we call like the V2 of bookings, where we're updating a lot of different aspects of the product and enhancing it. And so I can tell you that the tenant admin controls will be a part of that revamp, and it's one of the first things we're addressing, but I can't give you any more specific details around that just yet.
Okay, awesome. Next question. Any plans to allow users to delete bookings that they created to test? I think you can delete stuff, right?
Yeah, I would assume that this question is more around these actual booking pages. Because you can delete these are pretty simple to delete. You can just cancel them here. But these actual booking calendars, when I click new, it'll create that page, and there's not a quick delete function. The current way to delete it is from an admin perspective. You actually have to go into Exchange and delete the Exchange mailbox that's associated with the bookings with the bookings calendar. So it's a bit of a workaround. You can do it. It's possible, but more from an admin side. But yes, we do have plans to make that more readily available in the UI. There's a lot of things that is possible through an Exchange PowerShell perspective that we are working towards. Which ones do we stay there and keep those, reserve those for more tenant admin type needs, and which ones do we pull up to the UI?
Perfect.
And I will say, just a little plug, we do have a bookings user voice. And so if this is something that you're super passionate about and just want to comment on all the features, we are really, really customer driven. We care a lot about building a product that makes sense for you and works for you. So please go there and upvote anything you want and drop in any new feature requests.
Yeah, actually, Jessica, if you'll send that to me at some point, I will drop it in this community, and that way they can do that. I'm going to just keep going through these questions, hopefully, to get through as many as we can. Are there plans to have customer information auto-populated if it's an internal only?
I am assuming that this question is for the self-service page. We've gotten this feedback before. So as some context, so right now, just there is a customers tab that has a list of all customers that have been, or we call them customers, but we're thinking through the naming functionality. So any end users that are booking, and you can actually import ones already if you have their names and email addresses. But what I think this question is likely referring to is we have this booking page access control where you can require a Microsoft or Office account from your organization, so within the tenant, to book an appointment. And so what happens is anytime you visit this page, if that's checked off, we run a credentials check to make sure you're within the tenant. And we have gotten feedback that that there should be an additional place where you auto-populate this information with that of the information. So in this case, theoretically, I could log in and have my Microsoft account be valid, but then I could input my @outlook.com email address here, or at Gmail, or whatever it may be. And so we have gotten that feedback. I can't speak to any plans to change it right now. We're still thinking through what the actual like user story is for that, and where it fits into the roadmap. But we've heard that from other customers as well. So you're not alone.
Perfect. And Super Steve Lane has already dropped that user voice for us in the chat. That's perfect. Next question. When will group bookings, meaning more than one customer, be available?
It is already available. So if you come into your services, the trick here is it's only available with new services. So if I've already created a service, then you can't create more. You can't add it to make it group bookings. But I have it here right now in this office hours group booking, and so it says maximum attendees is 4, and so you can change that to make it as many as you want. So it can go from, if you want it to be many to one scenario, then you can make it to as many bookings as you want. And essentially what that does is it leaves that specific appointment at that time with that same staff member open until it's full. And what you can see here is, I'll show you on the calendar where it's already been booked. The office hours is a group booking here. So you can see 2 seats of 4 have been booked. So you can quickly go to the calendar and see what that looks like. And if you go into edit it, you can actually see which people have booked it as well.
Yeah, I have personally tested that too, just to kind of play around with it. And yeah, it's easy and it works, and it'll stay there until you have booked up all those spots.
Exactly. And if Kylie comes in here, let's say, and decides to cancel the appointment on her own, then this will free up a new spot. So it's really dynamic in that way too.
Awesome. This one says, any update on hiding email addresses from, that says Gab, I'm thinking Gal. Usually that's what it is. So yeah, are there any updates on hiding the email addresses from the Gal?
Mm-hmm. This is something that we are thinking through when it comes to tenant admin controls, because essentially, for those that don't know, what happens is when you create a new bookings calendar, it creates a special kind of shared mailbox within Exchange, and it also creates an entry in Azure AD as a part of that process. And so they actually show up as unlicensed users in the GAL. And so we have definitely heard feedback that this can be confusing or undesirable for specific tenant admins. It is only the address of the bookings mailbox itself, so it doesn't actually give any access to any of these details. But as we think through tenant admin controls, we are exploring the Exchange dependencies and what it would look like to remove that or hide them, or those naming conventions. So definitely something on our radar.
I'm going to skip down for just a second because I've heard this question in multiple scenarios, so I will pop back up. Apologies to those that I'm skipping in the meantime, but like I said, I'll collect them for Jessica. The question is around using bookings for labs. Can this be used for a location instead of a person? For example, Computer Lab has 10 available stations for an available hour. We want to prevent more than 10 people to schedule for that lab at a time. So if person 11 tries to schedule it, it'll deny that person because all stations have been booked. So this has come up separately for me, and so I feel like that might be something that other folks are interested in as well.
Definitely. Yes, and we have heard this several times. So apologies if you can hear my dogs barking in the back. But basically,
we're excited about bookings too.
They're so excited about it. But yes, so the short answer is yes. I would caveat it to say that bookings was built with people in mind and these services at the forefront. So there may be some nuances that you encounter that make this a little less than desirable of an experience, but we have seen people use it and use it successfully. So I would say you can definitely go for it and try it out. And the way that we would recommend setting it up is making it a group booking for so if you have, let's say, like 10 the lab has 10 potential computers in it or whatnot, or whatever, it can fit that many 10 people, then you would bump this up to 10 people. as a group booking, and then you would have to assign a staff to it. And so here's where the tricky part comes in, because a staff member has to be assigned to it, because essentially what Bookings is doing is it's going through and checking the availability of all of these folks to ensure that there is an open time slot. So if all of these people are busy, or there's only one person assigned and their calendar's booked up, then it will say that there's no appointment. And so the way that you would do that is essentially adding a resource mailbox to this staff. So all that's required to add a staff member is an email address. And so that you have to have an email address in order to create a new staff member. But what we would recommend, and what we have seen people do, is create a resource mailbox in Exchange. So we see this a lot for conference rooms being done as well. That's like the most common scenario for a resource mailbox. And you would just add the resource mailbox in here. And you can change this name to whatever you want, whatever makes the most sense. And then you can actually book that resource. So it would work. And you just have to configure it a bit so that this name would be, let's say, like lab 1, and then you would have this be just different labs and different times. But it would be, it's fairly straightforward, other than the resource mailbox piece.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Hey,
Well,
Heather, there's also one from Andy. Andy Moon has a question, and he raised his hand. So today's Andy's day, because Father's Day weekend.
Okay.
Andy, what's your question?
So we have an issue with the mailbox that gets created for bookings because our environment doesn't route that particular suffix, and so we'd like to be able to set it to another mailbox, but there's no place in the GUI to do it, and I haven't been able to find any place to do it. So basically, the behavior is nobody who does a booking from outside of the University of Houston gets a confirmation email or a calendar invitation, which really hamstrings the functionality of bookings.
And you said that's due to an Exchange, something with an Exchange in the mailbox?
Yeah, the only address that it appears Bookings is able to use is an address that's at uofh.uh.edu, which isn't those aren't routable email addresses in our environment.
Let's think offline about this. This is not an issue that we have seen before, so I am curious to learn more about what it is, because what the behavior should be is when you create a new bookings calendar, it just creates a mailbox directly within Exchange, and so it shouldn't have any. It has a specific properties that make it a bookings mailbox, but it shouldn't. It should not be created in a way that it can't send confirmation emails and such.
Yeah, it sends confirmations to internal people, people that are inside the University of Houston. But if somebody signs up for a booking with a Gmail address, they never get a confirmation or a calendar invitation.
Yeah.
Hey, Andy, would you type that in either the chat or the community call channel? Because what I'm going to do, there are so many questions we didn't get to, and we're at 5:02 already. And I've already written down on my to-do is to gather all these booking questions for Jessica to send them over to her and her team. Also, like I mentioned when she first started, is I was really concerned about. My brain always lives in K-12. Not that I don't love higher education at all, but I love them both. But my brain always lives in education, the K-12, and I was like, how can we make this a little bit more education friendly? So if you have those suggestions as well, I see Jason had given one about booking pages being more brandable from a theme perspective. Love it. There are Jessica, there are so many amazing questions. We are going to get to you.
Amazing.
For me, I think of it, there's so much potential. That's what I kept telling her on Monday when I talked to her. There's so much potential for this in education. So glad you guys came with incredible questions, but unfortunately time-wise, we're a little strapped.
And that's a great segue, Heather. You know, really appreciate the active participation. Jessica, we may even have to have for a second session, I'm thinking. So let me stop the recording here real quick. I'll post this in the